For this DIY, you're going to need a pizza pan. I, of course, picked mine up at the Dollar Tree. You're also going to need a paint of choice. And I have this one by Waverly in the color Plaster. It's more of a chalk paint. I did pick this one up at Walmart a while back. And I will say that this one a little bit goes a long way. So it's going to last you a good while. Right, so when you're painting, what you want to do is paint one coat, let it dry, and if you're using chalk paint, it's going to dry really fast, and then you're going to go in with your second coat. And if you see any like streaking from your brush, don't worry, because we're going to cover that up here pretty soon in the video.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Okay, friends, so here is a part where we're going to go in to cover up those brush strokes, but I also wanted to give my pizza pan a little bit more texture, and for whatever reason, even after 2 coats of paint, I was still seeing a little bit of the pizza pan seeping through. So I figured that this technique would be ideal to cover up all those little imperfections. And all I'm doing is just taking one of those bath sponges from the Dollar Tree, cutting off a little piece, and I'm literally just going to dip into the paint that I'm already using and just go in with like a very light hand in like dabbing motions on top of the pizza pan to cover up those little imperfections and make it look a little bit more polished.
Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. A day or 2 ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bride was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lame, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank, and then we got upset. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open.
For this next step, we're going to go in to add a contrasting color of choice. I'm using this metallic gold that I used in a previous DIY. And if you haven't seen all of the DIYs that I've done this far, I'm going to leave them linked for you at the very end so that you can just click on them to watch. And really, all I'm doing is using the same technique that as we previously did with the sponge, going in with like a dabbing motion, and the sponge still a little bit has like that wet paint on there, as well as the pizza pan paint is still a little bit wet, so I haven't let it dry completely. And the reason for that is just because it's going to help blending and make it look a little bit more natural, if you will. But in all honesty, it gave me that like rustic antique feeling that I was going for.
Jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Now that our paint is dry, it is time to start decorating, and I picked up these wooden signs from the Dollar Tree, of course, as well as some snowflakes. And originally when I had planned this out, I was going to leave them as is, but then I thought I could also stain them. So I couldn't decide, and I went on to Instagram, and you guys voted for me to stain them. So that is exactly what I did, and I went in with the color Early American. I had to do this all in the garage because this is an oil-based stain. So if you use this same stain, make sure that you're in a highly ventilated area. And I just went in with a lint-free rag, and I gave each piece like 1 coat of stain, which I used 8 snowflakes and of course just the 1 sign. Next, we are going to make some tassels. So here's how I made mine. I cut 2 5mm macrame cords about 2.5 inches long, and then I also cut a third piece about 2 inches long. You can make them the same size. And then I just unraveled the 2-inch one, set it to a side, and then I unraveled the other ones, and then I placed them together. To make the actual tassel, I folded them in half, and then with the extra string, I just tied it very tightly, and then I turned it around, and it became a part of the tassel, and then I added another piece of string over the top Tie that one very tightly. After you've made all of your tassels, you're just going to cut them all to size. You will need about 11 tassels, and mine ended up being about 2 inches long. And once you've done that, you're just going to go in and brush them just to fluff them up a bit.
Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open.
This next step is optional, but I went ahead and just placed everything on top of my pizza pan as if I were going to glue everything down, just because I wanted to make sure that I had enough space to put my Christmas tree stem on there, because I hadn't taken into consideration that I still needed the stem. And once I had everything in place, and I went ahead and just measured and cut a little dowel.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun.
I went ahead and cut my Christmas tree stem and stained it the same color as the wooden sign and the snowflakes. And then I also glued everything else down. So the bottom of the Christmas tree is missing a tassel, but I'll glue that at the very end when I glue the Christmas tree stem. But this next step, I wanted to show you how I came out with these measurements. So we're going to be making a macrame knot called a square knot for the border of the pizza pan. And I basically just measured the pizza pan, and then I tripled that, and it ended up being about 12 feet, but cut 13 feet because I ended up being a little bit short. And you're going to need 3 strands. All right, to start with, you of course have your 3 strands separated. If you're doing longer, like the 13 feet, you're going to want to do this standing up. It just makes it easier. So for just demonstration purposes, to show you the knot, I'm just going to work with these little smaller pieces. So the first thing that I'm going to do is whatever side I decide to work on, I'm going to do to the other side after I'm done with it. And that'll make sense here in just a little bit. The very first step is to bring one string across the other one, so the middle part, and it's going to look like a 4. And I'm going to hold on to this so it doesn't fall out of place. And then I'm going to bring the other string. It's going to go over and under and through. And so when it comes through, it kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe like a ship sail, or some people think it looks like a pretzel. Whatever you think, and then you're just going to tighten it. You want to hold the middle string and just tighten it. This is where it comes in handy when you're working standing up, because it just makes, it makes it a little bit easier, but I think we got this. Okay, and then you want to just kind of tighten it up. So there's that. So now we're going to do the same thing that we just did, but on the opposite side. I'm going to cross, bring my string over. I like to hold on to it. This string is going to go over. So it's just going to go over the one that we just crossed. And then going to go underneath. There's like a little X here. Just going to go underneath it. And then bring it through. And that's what it should look like. And then you just tighten it. So now we're going to work on this side again. So you bring it over, make your backwards 4, and then here is where we're going to bring it over and underneath and through the loop where it looks like that. This is again where it's going to look like that pretzel. And then you just tighten it. And since we started on this side, we're going to end on this side. And there you go. All right, everyone, here is what it looks like completed. And I quickly wanted to go over some things. So the very first thing is that when we measured the macrame cord before we made the square knot, I told you that it measured out to about 12 feet, but to go ahead and cut 13 feet. And the reason for that is because up here, if you see these little like pieces of the macrame cord just kind of hanging out, and that was because I was short. So from this section here to here is how much more I needed to finish. And I know that's not one whole entire foot, but you have to keep in mind that when you're making these knots, you lose a little bit in length. And so I figured to be on the safer side, just go in for like a full foot. You can do half a foot, and I think it'll measure out fine. But I like to be more on the safe side, if that makes sense. But that was it pretty much. Also, if I was going to just use it on the easel as I am doing now, then I would probably have started on the bottom. So instead of gluing from the top here, going all around and then finishing at the top, I would have just started here so that it would hide this here. And this is where I cut it off to finish it off basically. And the easel would have hit it. However, I had no intention of using this project like this. I was actually gonna like hang it up on the wall. So I was going to connect a piece of string to hang up on the wall. But I don't know, I ended up liking it like this. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and just display this on my kitchen countertop somewhere as is with the easel. Let me know what you guys think, and if you decide to give this a try. If you have any questions whatsoever, leave them for me in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.